I'm so excited to like talk about this with you, just because I feel like so much of my own imagination as an artist is so shaped by theology of the body and by, I mean, frankly, even your own presentation of that. Um, and so I feel like this movie is very much like an ode to that. It's an ode to the incarnation and to the
Yes,
embodiment
yes.
uh, Christ's descent into hell and I guess the Paschal mystery itself. So I would love to hear some of your own kind of thoughts about how the movie sort of does that and
Yeah.
what you saw in it. If
Yeah.
you'd be open to maybe like
Happily,
sharing.
happily. The reason this movie touched me so deeply is number one, it's real storytelling. It's not just somebody's pious notions
Yeah, right.
I mean, we've all seen these films about saints where somebody's pious imagination gets the best of them and you lose the humanity, you lose any real point of connection. The saints become some pious thing up on a cloud, a silver lined cloud, and you can't relate to it. You can't relate to it.
Right.
I could relate to this movie. Why? Because it's an invitation to have the courage to descend into my own hell, right? The
Mhm.
gift of good storytelling is that you're watching somebody else's story, but it's connecting with some aspect of your own story. And so you relate, you enter in, there's a point of connection, there's a communion that's taking place. And
Mm.
also what makes for good art is being honest about the descent into hell, right? There is no saint who did not descend into hell, right? Every saint descends into hell. How do we know this? Because every saint is a true follower of Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ descended into hell. Now, if you have a story or a movie that only descends into hell and keeps you there, well,
Hmm.
that's a horror movie,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's and I don't know why. I mean, it's just some sadistic thing in us that we consider that entertainment. I guess at some level we're relating to the hell. Okay, I've been to hell. This is a movie about going to hell. But what makes something good art is it's not afraid to portray accurately the descent into hell, but it doesn't leave you there. It shows you the path to heaven. It gives you hope. And let it be known the main message of this film is hope. That's the main message of this film. And it is so beautifully incarnate. If we're going to talk about theology of the body, right? Christianity is a theology of the body. Christianity is the religion of God in the flesh, who experiences what we experience in the flesh, who tastes the hell that we experience, but in absorbing that hell opens the way to heaven. And here's Maximilian Kolbe choosing freely to descend into this hell, and you portray it so vividly without sugarcoating it. It's human, it's relatable, the acting is superb, the writing is excellent, the cinematography is so good. And the side stories, we get to know different prisoners and some of their backstories, like Albert and the woman he loved, whom he left to go join the war, and that whole backstory, which I would love to ask you. I am assuming this came from your own imagination. This is your creative license. We don't know too much about the other people Maximilian actually suffered and died with, do we?
No, we don't. We all we know is the composition of the people that were in Auschwitz at the time of his death, and so piecing together likely stories of the types of people who were there was kind of what I was up to. I was compositing those. Um, and Albert's was one that I felt like, there were plenty of POWs in the camp at the time. And I was just imagining, okay, you have young guys who were at war who joined up to help save Poland who are now dying in this terrible way. Um, these guys must have been like idealistic. They were just out of college. They're
Yeah.
at that sort of high watermark of life, that, they haven't been completely like demoralized yet. And so I thought that like this opening where we just, instead of opening on Auschwitz, we actually opened on like what this guy would have been like a year before the war, and then smash cut to his face, um, just totally destroyed, his hope completely gone a year later after, joining up. And this sort of idea like, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to make a difference and I'm going to be a white knight and help save my country, and how just like destructive to the soul that idealism is when it kind of meets the, I guess, the hell of the world. And so yeah, I thought that was really compelling to me. I really wanted to start there, to sort of start with somebody who had already been destroyed, but to see a little bit of what that looked like before, enough for you to be able to relate to it, you know?
Well done, Anthony. Well done. Well done. That story arc, Albert's story, made the movie for me.
Mm.
I knew in the opening scene when you're seeing him run out into the field with the woman he loves, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good movie. This is gonna be this. I knew it from the opening scene. Like you weren't taking some hyper pious approach here. Like you're telling a real human story, and
Yeah.
and the way that comes around at the end. Holy Jesus! Like that's when the tears just started flowing. I don't want to give any spoilers here, but the way Albert learns in the midst of abject horror to turn his suffering into love. That's when the tears just started flowing, how that all came around at the end of the movie. Well done, well written, well told, well filmed. There's a scene where Albert's character in the starvation bunker has a kind of fantasy dream where he's back with the woman he loves. And then you realize, the way you tell that part of the story where he's coming back to reality, that he didn't get to be with that woman. He's really in this starvation bunker and he's dying, and how you filmed him just getting torn away from that dream, and he's running, and it was just so well done. It was really, really well done, Anthony. Yeah, I felt the fruit of your own sorrow there. I felt the fruit of your own sufferings. That good art comes from the heart. Good comes from a good heart, and a good heart is forged and shaped by descending into hell and finding real hope. And I'm so grateful to you, Anthony, for passing through that hell, being brave enough to pass through that hell, coming out the other side, because only such people can tell the true story of human life, which is always the Paschal story. It's the story of each of our encounters with the cross, wrestling with the cross, unto the point of that utter cry from hell, my God, why have you abandoned me? And hoping against hope and coming out the other side and realizing, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be tasting when I'm praying the rosary. I'm not just supposed to be thumbing beads and repeating Hail Marys. I am supposed to be tasting and uniting my own sorrows with the Lord's sorrows, so that his light can shine on all of my joys and all of my sorrows as the pathway to glory. Well, there's the rosary right there, that the Lord's light, right, the luminous mysteries, would shine on my joy and sorrow as the path to glory.
Hmm.
That's where you take us. You take us through, you shine the light on human joy and human sorrow as the pathway to glory. It's all of that. It's the light, it's the joy, it's the sorrow, it's the glory. And the way another scene that just brought me to tears, even more so the second time I saw the movie, was Kolbe in the starvation bunker describing his vision of heaven when Jesus and the Blessed Mother showed up. And I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler, but it was my favorite line in the movie was when Jesus when Kolbe says he saw Jesus dancing the polka in the
Yeah.
wedding feast of the Lamb. Like, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved how personal that felt to Kolbe, right? Like to see Jesus dancing a Polish dance in the wedding feast of the Lamb. And again, I don't want to give a spoiler here. I'm just going to give a little hint that it comes around at the end, and that was a surprise to me. I thought the movie was over.
Yeah.
I thought
Right.
you had taken us on the journey you wanted to take us on, and I thought I was going to see the credits roll, and then all of a sudden there's like a little surprise. No, there's more. And I have never seen a depiction of heaven so beautifully and humanly portrayed as what you portrayed. And it was beautiful. It was
Yeah.
beautifully human. Thank you, Anthony,
Yeah.
for your beautiful humanity coming
Hmm.
through the way you told the story. It was
I
truly
appreciate
beautiful.
that. Yeah, no, I think I am so grateful that you enjoyed those particular moments. They're some of my favorites as well. I think um, that waking up from the dream was a real thing that I experienced often when I was in that kind of
Oh,
space of torment, waking
oh,
up and having
oh,
a panic attack because I thought, I had gotten married to her, and then, waking up and realizing that it was, all a dream, and that I was still in the
oh,
cell. And so
oh,
I
oh,
remember writing it in the story, and just um, just being like, I'm sorry that I have to show people this in a way. Like I
oh,
almost felt to the audience like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take you here. I'm gonna show you like the sweetest, most beautiful image of what life is supposed to look like, and then it's going to sort of it's going to end in horror. And I don't, I'm not a fan of the emotions that that's going to be causing, but you have to understand that in order to
yeah.
understand um, what what Christ has victory over in this
Yes,
cell. Um,
yes, yes.
and so it's kind of like I think in some ways like the cross itself and its brutal physical torture is a lot harder for us to fully grapple with as a modern people, just because physical torture isn't what most people experience on the day to day. But this sort of mental anguish of having a life that you thought you were going to get to have, and having that life sort of taken from you by for whatever reason. I think that is something that everybody has experienced in some way, to some degree. And so that was sort of a window in, I thought, to the crucifixion. And I think what I was hoping to do as I went into like, how does Colby respond to this sort of thing? That image of heaven, like the dream that he had of heaven, that's a real thing. He actually had a dream of heaven that was a big part of his his life, particularly the latter part of his life. When he was in Japan, he had this dream that he wouldn't tell anybody about, but that really, really changed him. And it was a dream about heaven, where he got to see it and taste it and feel it. And I think um, in many ways, God was just preparing him for for his own kind of passion by giving him
Mm, mm.
that glimpse. And so I thought it would make sense for him to share that dream for the first time to the other people around him in the cell, as he's helping them to prepare for their end. And I also thought, Jesus gives us the image of a heaven, so what would he have dreamed?
Yeah.
I think a
Yeah.
Polish heaven sounds like
Yeah.
realistic, So
Yes. For
yeah.
absolutely for a Pole, because the Lord speaks to us in the language of our own hearts, right?
Yeah.
We all have our own culture in our hearts. Like I know it
Hmm.
sounds weird to people, but Jesus will often show up in my prayer singing Bruce Springsteen or U2 songs because that's the language of my heart. And
Hmm.
the Lord knows our hearts. So when you gave it such a Polish flavor, Kolbe's vision of heaven, again, you're relating vicariously, like because it's so specific to Kolbe, it becomes
Hmm.
so specific for my heart as well. We're
Yeah.
not crazy to have like Our Lady of Japan and Our Lady of the Americas and Our Lady of Czestochowa and Our Lady of Guadalupe. Like Mary shows up to people in their own culture, in their own cultural garb, right? The whole
Right.
idea of enculturating the gospel. In order for the gospel to be universal, it has to be also culturally specific, right? In
Right.
order for Jesus to save the whole human race, he also has to save the good thief right next to him, right?
Right.
It's that particular and universal and how that all holds together. And this story is exactly that. The story you tell is a very particular Polish story, but it's because it's particular, it also extends universally. And I'll say this also about your own heart in that dream sequence, Albert's dream sequence, that he did get married and then it all gets yanked away from him. I found it the most compelling scene in the movie. If I had to pick one, I mean, there's so many compelling scenes in the movie, but if I had to pick one, it would be that. And I knew, just because I know from life experience, you can't write a scene like that in theory. It can't be abstract. I knew it came from some genuine place in your heart, but I did not know. I did not know until you just shared that it is almost literal with what you did experience in your own sufferings and nightmares and waking up from them. And I just, again, I want to thank you, Anthony, for being so vulnerable, for exposing your own heart so vulnerably. It is a tremendous risk for an artist to be that vulnerable and
Mm.
to put his heart out there so nakedly. And I want to say I saw your beautiful heart in this film, and I'm so, so grateful to you for being that vulnerable. That's what makes good art, when it comes from the heart. And good art from the heart has the capacity to reach other people's hearts. And it reached mine, brother. And I feel a deep communion with you in this work of art. And it
Thank you.
makes me so excited to rejoice with you in the communion of the saints and the wedding feast of the
Oh my
Lamb for eternity. Because I got just a
God.
little glimpse, of the unique, unrepeatable mystery of Anthony's heart through this work of art. And I can't wait to see the beam of glory that you reveal in eternity, my brother, truly.
That's it's an amazing thing to hear from somebody that has been a teacher for me and somebody that I respect so much. Yeah, really, like the theology of the body, I think is one of those. Um, it's one of those foundational underpinnings of my whole being. Really, it's so deeply kind of installed in there since I started hearing about it in middle school and high school, and I can't think outside of it as an artist. Like everything has become the poetry of sacrament, and so yeah, this movie in so many ways is like an ode to that. It's my first
Mm.
big movie, but I think it's a film where even though the production level we only had $500,000 to make it. So
What?
we
You
were,
made this movie for $500,000?
yeah, 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 we did. We were living like missionaries. It was everybody's getting paid almost nothing.
I'm thinking like, where did Anthony get the money to do this so well? Like I was thinking a minimum of like $5 million to make this movie. You did this movie on $500,000. That is all the more astounding that you pulled this off.
Yeah, yeah, no, it
Oh
is. It
my
is.
word.
It's everything about it was miraculous. I mean, with that budget, in order to do something like this, every single day we needed a miracle to come through in terms of like somebody showing up that would bail us out of a problem, or a location to just sort of materialize out of thin air. You can't solve problems without money, right? Like that's the big thing. So if you don't have money to throw at problems, then you just have to sort of wait for God's generosity to show
Wow.
up, and it did. But I was going to say that I think what what was accomplished, I think, was really accomplished particularly because um, I started in my own dark night of the soul to make art, to make create, to meet God in poetry, and that instinct is like such a it's such a tob instinct to
Yes.
find a way to open your imagination to the Lord, and to like try to suck down that nectar into the sort of physical world around you in some way, and I feel like it